dark social versus dark funnel. This shit is just everywhere right now on my feed, and it's everybody's talking about it. And I got a few posts I think I want to just go through first to kind of really set the stage. Is attribution still relevant? The future is the dark funnel, right? And I got another post. But the more I think about it, the more I believe dark funnel is the most important trend in B2B. And then there's some other things I really want to break down on this at least a little bit before I pass it off, which is, look, number one, this has always been a thing, right? Like Reddit's existed for years and conversations go there all the time. LinkedIn's always been there. There's always been forums. There's always been groups. Sure, has this accelerated a little bit? Yes, but just this act of like this is something new, it's not. This has always been a thing. And as a practical marketer, guys, I just want the marketer to really think about where we're getting our advice from. Almost all of this is being fueled from MarTech vendors and agencies, right? Like all those people I listed off are part of that group. And again, no knock to them. It's just like, let's be careful where we're getting our advice from a little bit. And there's only one other real point that really kind of irks me, and this really kind of belittles marketers. Like, we all just got in a room, looked at our attribution platform and said, oh, yeah, everything's organic and direct, so I guess blogs and that's it, right? Like, I've never worked at a company where that's happened or people thought like that. And if your marketing team is, you need to fire them right now, like transparently. And so, I'll leave it like this. Like, I think we're just overstating a little bit, like how much this matters. Like, yeah, it matters and it's a thing and I recognize it and definitely be aware of it and don't get confused by your attribution and go create awareness and things like that. But like, this is how B2B marketer or B2B buyers are buying now. I don't know about that. And then the other thing, if you're a marketing leader, you're going to go pitch, oh yeah, we got to change our marketing strategy to be in the dark funnel and dark social and we're going to adjust to this. Guys, that's not a strategy I would hang my hat on right now, especially if you're in a smaller Series A, B, or C company. 12 months, you're going to come back. Your CEO is going to say, how's that dark social strategy working out? Where's the revenue from it? You're not going to have an answer.
Look, of course it matters, right? And of course, it's also always been there. Like, this is not a new thing at all. It is crazy, right? That like, in December of 2021, the most, the dominating topic is this. And it's like, is this news? But for me, this is like really just case in point that one of the most powerful things you can do in marketing is naming something. So this didn't become the conversation it currently is without, somebody putting a name to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to recognize. At the same time, right, when a heavyweight like Chris Walker is really out there evangelizing around it, then people are going to pay attention, and as they should. But as is almost always the case, the collective sort of over rotates, right? And we just latch on and we're like, oh yeah, this is it now, forget everything else.
Yeah.
It's between this and community-led growth, right? Or whatever the hell the flavor is.
Yeah.
And that's really the problem here is I think that in many ways it's a distraction. Ooh. In many ways, it's not helping marketers do the deep work that it takes to position their business properly, get out there with the programs that actually have a chance to like change the hearts and minds of their.
That's for topic 2. You're ruining it, Jürgen.
That's not dark. It's in the light. No. I think that dark social and dark funnel are like the sexy ways of basically saying you should do customer education. These things have always existed. You should know what type of content and what topic engages your buyers. And you should know where to put it so that it catches them when they're in a buying cycle. And those are two very, very simple concepts of marketing. And to me, that is just the basis of that. Basically, it is a sexy way that MarTech is trying to say, do your customer education. There's not going to be an easy way. There's not going to be a tool that you can purchase. You need to go to your customers and you need to talk to them. That's the basic way to do both of those things. And I think we're trying to spin it into an industry and people are trying to make it a way to sell things. Don't bite it. Just
Jürgen, you said something really quick. Maybe before we transition, actually, I know we don't want to spend a lot of time on this, and it's just, this podcast might not even age well. In 6 months, we're all going to be in the dark funnel, and we all just
when everybody's made a ton of money in the dark funnel, we'll be like, oh, cool.
Yeah, we messed up. Is this even in your top 5 like priorities as a marketing team or marketing leader, like this dark social, dark funnel?
I mean, in order to answer that question, right, you have to be really clear on like what does it entail to execute on a strategy that maps to dark social, dark funnel, right? Like, what are you actually doing? Like, that's the thing about all this stuff, right? Whether it's this type of led growth or this over here or whatever, like, well, what are you actually doing about it? And so are the things you're going to do really be top 5? Maybe, maybe not. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer to that, actually, because I think it's a really important question.
Yeah.
In some ways, you can argue that absolutely it needs to be in your top 5, because the reality is, like, most of us have fucked up relative to this in the past in some way, not to the degree that, you know, we are being, you know, kind of told about this, right? Like, oh yeah, you know, well, I just thought it was SEO. Like, it's not like that, but like we've all underestimated the power of this, but then also overestimated some other stuff, right? Like, we all can make the mistake of being in our own shit too much. So to me, like, what should be in your top 5 is waking all the way up to just understanding, what are your customers, your buyers actually doing?
Yeah.
Like, where are they and what are they saying?
What are they talking about? What are the problems that they are facing?
Yeah, to keep it simple.
So,
I think for me, as like a content strategy, like 100% this sits in my top 5, right? I serve an audience development and product, both that like to be highly educated before they make decisions, right? And before they even talk to sales, they want to be highly educated. So of course, ungated content, having a narrative, you know, and executing on that in the ways that they like to consume content, of course, those are on my radar. They're not my number 1 priority, but they are definitely a priority. But they were a priority last year, and they were the priority the year before, because that's just a basis of good marketing.
Yeah, let's do this, actually. I want to transition to the next topic, because I kind of saved some of this for the meat here on the next one, and I think this would be a good transition, or maybe we can combine these two, actually, because David Kirkdorfer, it's weird, we started posting at the same time on LinkedIn about 2 years ago, and I've been noticing him post this for about 8 or 9 months now, actually. And he came out and just said, I would like to tell B2B tech CEOs, CROs, and CMOs, whoa there. By focusing so much on conversions, B2B marketing has kind of turned into an early stage sales motion. Totally fair. If B2B marketing could get back to its roots to educate, inform, and inspire, and even entertain prospects, it would be going back to attracting interest and creating demand. And actually, kind of what he's talking about, I think, is that dark social thing, right? Like, that's what you should be doing in dark social. And I kind of, my thoughts on this with what he posts is, I get fearful, and I think I get fearful with the dark funnel thing is, this is that tactic-focused false struggle that marketers get in with both. They read this shit and then think, guys, we need to pivot and start going to educate and inform our buyers and entertain them. Oh, by the way, in the dark social. And hey, we can't attribute it either, by the way, because attribution's gone because it's dark, right? And that's like kind of my fear is like, that's a lot of tactic stuff. When we talked about that top 5 list is, well, you need to really think about, hey, you need to get your damn story straight first, right? If you don't have a compelling brand narrative, if you go out there and educate and inform your buyers, here's what happens. And I really hate this, and there's a very big nuance here people need to get to. You are not creating demand. If all you're doing is informing and educating and then waiting for a need to develop, you are simply capturing demand a little bit better than you were before. So there's this huge missing piece in what he's talking about, which is you need that narrative, and you should actually be going to educate and inform your buyers on that narrative. And that's the key to creating new demand, because that's how you get buyers to recognize their pain. I'll maybe stop there quick and see. I know there's going to be some other takes here.
Yeah. I mean, I think he does one thing right and one thing wrong, right? To me, the thing that he says, right, that's correct, is that optimizing from conversion has ruined B2B marketing. You've turned it into a B2C. Oh, yes, there's 2 different colors of Coca-Cola. I would like the red one. B2B decisions are not that. They're complex. They involve multiple stakeholders. many people who like to consume content in different ways, right? So that's one thing that I think he does get right, that conversion and optimizing for conversion has ruined B2B marketing and not made it informative. It's made the average content worse, right? On the other side, I think that he is right in the fact that, so I think he makes one point that's completely correct, right? Is that optimizing from conversion has completely ruined B2B marketing. When you create content just with the point, or web content or ungated content, it ruins the overall goal of education, right? You no longer want to educate people, you just want to get them to a demo. The piece of what he said that I think is not correct is that I cannot remember. Oh my gosh, Jürgen, you go second. I don't know why I cannot remember my second point.
That's really funny. Look, I think, we wanted to do this show and debate a whole bunch of stuff. And, a lot of times we just agree with each other, but sometimes we might just look at it a little bit differently without necessarily disagreeing like violently, right? The thing that I take from a post like this is, yeah, he's 100% right. I don't think there's any question about that. But what is not stated is that it's not that easy. Like 90-something% of the B2B marketers out there that are trying to educate, trying to inform, and best of all, trying to entertain their buyers are not able to do that in a proper way. It's really fucking hard. Like, it's really, really hard.
Like, is it even possible for a vendor, like somebody who sells things, to make content that engages and makes them look
high? Like, people don't understand what they're competing against. People aren't appreciating the fact that we care about what we care about. And when you're trying to come at me with some new shit about something I might buy on behalf of the company I work for, I am not really that open. And so for me, the problem is really this, that when people say educating, they talk about like product education, sometimes at the solution level, but typically on the product level. And I have no fucking interest in that. You need to be at the problem level. Actually, you need to be even higher than that. You need to just be talking about shit that aligns with my general point of view. And then you have a shot at getting my attention. Like, I know that you don't necessarily agree with going that far, but I'm just saying, if you're not willing and able to go that far, you're going to slide all the way down into product, education, and entertainment. Really quickly, and that is going to fail because people.
At long last, my second point comes back to me. But I think that the issue is that you need like an entire team dedicated to building this type of content. Like I think of in my industry, right, we're data and dashboards. I look at Tableau, and they do an amazing job of this, right? Like for the for the election, they created a huge dashboard and everybody followed it. People looked at it. It was super entertaining. Yes, it wasn't completely at a product level, but it showed off the product features in a way that was inspiring and entertaining. And you wanted to create a dashboard like that, right? So I look at Tableau, but they have probably a whole team dedicated to creating that type of open, influencing content that a small company like mine just can't scale. So I guess the question is, can teams even prioritize that type of content, and can they even deliver it? Because a lot of us are just built too lean to do that.
I think they can. I mean, look at this right here, guys. We don't put a lot of work into this, right? I think we're at least entertaining ourselves.
Evidenced by Liz
so
losing
we might not be
point.
entertaining anybody else, but I fucking laugh every time we're on this damn thing. So there's that, right? And I think so there is. I don't think you need a huge team, Liz. But I do think, Jürgen, you said which my fear is where I started, right? It's this tactic focus mindset that's happening. And I actually wrote a note here too, and I think that's exactly what you were saying, right? Creating demand, that's how I'm looking at this. What he's saying, to want to create demand requires a narrative that should resonate with your buyer's beliefs, right? That's what you should be going to do. What's really happening is people are entertaining with memes and then saying, here's our product, right? Like, and that's the huge miss. Like, it's to your point, like the bar is so high now. Your job, sure, to educate and inform, yes, please, marketers, don't get sucked up into this. I have one more point. I'm actually done. But I read something from Cassidy Shields today. It was a comment, and I think it just holds true if you're going to get on this bandwagon of informed and educated. He says, too many marketing teams don't know how to show their impact. And that's what's going to happen for someone that switches to this. In 12 months, people are going to ask, hey, how's that cat meme bullshit doing, right? Well, we're not measuring that like we are the performance stuff. Like, that ain't going to fly. So just, like, there's a huge strategic component that we're not talking about that's missing to really pull this off in the typical company.
So, Jay, how would you go about, I mean, and trust me, I'm a spreadsheet marketer, and I love that shit, right? But how do you go about measuring if you want to be somebody like me who's a VP of marketing, and I want to go out and do some dark social kind of shit, you know?
Yeah.
How do I measure it, right? Like, because sometimes you do actually just have to go forward with something knowing, hey, I'm going to test this. I want to shift beliefs. There's not going to be a pathway backwards. That's super clear. So do I just forego that completely, or how do I measure that?
Look, my mindset's different, which is I believe that you can go out and create demand through a compelling brand narrative and measure it. If you have the right narrative, you should be creating inbound volume that should be going up. You should have buyers. You should have buyers that are connecting with your narrative content, then inbounding in. And then the last point, you need a buyer feedback loop. Your sales team should be having different conversations than they've ever had before. I have customers that come in and what their buyers are saying is, your marketing spoke to me, right? Like, it was your marketing that got me.
That was
that
me.
Shit is happening.
You need to add a checkbox on the
something.
bottom of your form that says, where did you hear from me, in an open line. That was the trend.
In the interest of pushing the conversation a little bit, I'm going to go one step further, and you guys feel free to laugh at me. I've had this realization lately that there's not a single B2B brand today that makes me feel anything. Makes me think about some shit, you know, and that's great. But I really think when we're talking about entertaining and educating and inspiring even, you know, like when we're having that kind of conversation, if I'm not feeling anything from the content, it's not that, oh, then it's like completely unsuccessful. I'm not saying that, but it is an indicator for me, because the brands that truly win, right? They make us feel something. And I think that's, especially in this like revenue obsessed era, that's completely lost. You know, I look at my beloved Drift, right? The reason why I love Drift is because back in 2016, 17, when they were really on my radar, they actually really made me feel something. Like, I felt like they were on a special mission. I felt there were special people there. I cared. I was rooting for them. They had something going on that was different. I was learning from them. They were totally like generous and not selfish with what they were doing. And that's a massive opportunity for really any company out there right now. Is like, make the buyer, inform them. Like, of course, like we're talking table stakes stuff. Of course, everybody should be getting educated about all the aspects of the business that are relevant for making decisions. But if you can also make somebody feel something, that's a big one.
Jürgen, have you bought Drift in your lifetime? Multiple times? Oh, interesting. I mean, I don't know how I feel about feelings in B2B marketing. I will always...
Well, let me say something, Liz,
because
this isn't a feeling, but I actually want your opinion. This is what I hear from customers, right? It's a little bit different than saying a feeling. I think this will get to what Jürgen was saying. My customers, and you guys can hear on this podcast, we're different, right? They're rooting for me. Like, they believe in what we preach. They believe in what we sell. That's maybe the feeling, which is like, hey, I want to see Elevate make it. The stuff you guys are talking about and what we're doing is really cool. Like, that's kind of, I don't know, maybe you're going to meet Liz. You're honestly a customer. You can, you know, I'd love.
Yeah.
You can be honest too.
I think there's actually a point there. Like, you should, I do think that there's a positive with making your buyers root for you and you being the small guy and you having a narrative that speaks to them, right? I actually do think that there's something there. Whether I guess when I go back to emotional connection to a brand, I think about like football commercials, like Super Bowl commercials where they try to make you cry. And I just don't think any of those antics will ever work in B2B marketing. B2B marketing has to weave like emotion in with the practicality of having to speak to a buyer who's literally going to use your product to be successful, right? And how can you enable their success? And yes, maybe there is some emotion in there, especially if your persona allows it.
There's a fuckload of emotion around success. Winning,
Yep.
personally and professionally, through our work life, there is so much emotion there, right? That's really what I'm talking about.
Yep.
That's the kind of winning, the feeling. Sorry.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like how to get there feels like a crazy pathway I could never achieve. But maybe one day. But I had the same experience with demand-based, to be honest, with you many, many years ago when I was at Blackboard. I mean, I remember seeing the product demo and thinking, wow, they solve like all of my effing problems. Like this could make us really successful in doing that. And many, many, many years later, like we did purchase demand-based. So there is something to be said there for that emotional connection, that kind of aha moment, you know?